Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. Really quickly, just because we didn't actually do an event quest video this week, there's no new event quests this week. There's actually some new challenge quests, but I don't tend to cover those. However, next week, we do have two new ones coming in. So we've got Playing the Long Game, which will let us get eager WudWud gear. So basically a WudWud to ride your shoulder. And there goes the Neighborhood, which will let us fight a 9-star Yian Kut Ku. If you go ahead and skip to the next week, which I'm just not going to show here, the Yian Kut Ku one goes away, and it seems like the quest for the WudWud gear is the only one that stays. That's not counting all the challenge quests, because a whole bunch of challenge quests pop up over the next 2 weeks. But I wanted to take a minute and talk about the future of the channel as far as Monster Hunter Wilds goes, since Wilds is very quickly approaching what would basically be the maintenance phase of its life cycle. If you've been around for a little bit and you've played more than one Monster Hunter game, then you're probably familiar with the fact that once they get to a certain point, they just kind of go into more or less a maintenance mode. Way back in the day, you really couldn't tell because the event quests were all we got, and the event quests were the way they introduced some new monsters, so there wasn't a formal update where you downloaded it and it had new monsters in it. It would just release the quest, which I would imagine the monsters and stuff were already loaded into the game. The quests were just a teeny tiny file that were basically like an unlock key and said, there you go. But once the title updates and whatnot started actually coming out, generally you would get so many title updates, and then there would be a really big break between the last title update and the release of the next either game or major update. And by major update in this case, I mean we know there's going to be a master rank expansion for Monster Hunter Wilds. Whatever it's going to be called, who knows? And we can sit and speculate some stuff about it, like I know normally it involves some sort of ice territory or something like that, but we actually had a decent ice zone already, so I'm hoping this time around the expanded area will be more tropical. Like, the quest you see playing in the background is the one where you have to hunt the 3 9-star tempered monsters. So, not really a particularly challenging quest. None of the 3 monster quests are really all that hard. You just have to take your time. As long as you take your time, you're going to be fine. But anyway, they usually will release the expansion after a couple months break. Given the fact that they have Monster Hunter Stories 3 scheduled to come out roughly around the summer, I know there's some people predicting that they'll actually announce and release the expansion around summertime. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think they're going to hold off until the holiday season this year. And I think they'll do that to try to keep from eating into the Wilds release window. Or not Wilds, but the Stories 3 release window. And it does seem like some of the rumors are probably panning out to be true, that they're going to actually do a version of Wilds on the Switch 2. So, I mean, that is probably going to be their temporary sort of mobile entry, and the way they actually buy a little bit of time between releases before they have to do another major release for the series, which, let's be honest here, as many troubles as they had with the PC release for this one, it won't hurt for them to actually take their time on the expansion to be sure they actually have everything well rounded out, have the PC settled, because it'll work on the same engine as Wilds. Like, there won't be any major changes. There might be some systems changes as far as the way the weapons work and whatnot, but those are just a matter of tweaking some data files. Like, there won't be anything added in that could re-break the game. And it'd be very akin to sort of what happened with World, where World came out, took a little bit of iterating to get it to actually work well on PC. But then by the time Iceborne came out, Iceborne ran pretty well smoothly from the get-go on PC. And I would suspect it'll be a similar thing with the expansion to this game, that they'll hopefully take their time, make sure they have everything in Wilds really hammered out, and then release an expansion. And if they already have the expansion's release window set to be in the holiday rather than in summertime, that gives them plenty of time to iterate and be sure that they actually have this game smoothed out. And I don't think that would actually hurt sales. I think it would actually boost consumer confidence that they've got everything back on par and that they're really trying. And there will 100% be an initial dip in the launch numbers for whatever the expansion of this is. They've lost a lot of consumer confidence. So when the game, whatever it is, comes out, don't be surprised if its first week sales numbers are nowhere near what Wild's first week sales numbers are. There's going to be a lot of people that will be shy about buying it, and they'll just wait and see it come out and see how it actually does before they put their money into it. And who could blame them? I'll be picking it up because it'll be content. But that aside, there's not going to be a lot to do with Monster Hunter between now and then. And I don't think people really want to see 1,000 videos of me just farming up the materials to sit and just revamp my Gogma weapons. I'll do that occasionally in my own time just to have a little bit of fun, but I have a few other ideas for the channel. So as far as what the channel's actually going to be, when new quests come out, I'll do videos for those quests. Otherwise, I'm not going to release a video saying, nothing's coming. Like, I'll do the 2 new quests next week, and then if no new quests actually pop up in the queue until new ones are at least listed, I may release a really quick video in the future showing that or showcasing a different quest while I talk about it, but I'm not going to put a whole lot of time into just hunting down material to do for wilds specifically. There's just not a lot to do with it, and I would rather play other games and add them into the channel than milk wilds purely for content. So, that being said, just to give you an idea of some things I'm working on at the moment. I've almost got 10 hours into Nexomon, which has been on my queue for a little while. I figured 10 hours would be a good point at which I could do an initial impressions of it. So that video will be coming very soon. I'm sitting at like 9 hours and 40 some minutes, so I'm going to probably grind up to the next boss, which will go a little bit beyond 10 hours, and then cut together some clips to do an impressions video on it. Hint, it's actually pretty fun. I don't have the patience to sink 10 plus hours into a game that I'm not liking. Aside from that, I have all the footage I need to actually do a review on Astrobot, and that'll be a full review, and I'll explain why I ended up doing it in the review itself, but I have that one. I'm going to try to script it out a little bit, try to be a little bit more formal with some of those types of videos moving forward, because generally I have done very unscripted content, but it seems like the more I actually do production, the better the videos do. Surprise, surprise, right? You actually put effort in, and it pays off. So I'm going to start trying to focus on making more quality videos rather than just trying to get quantity out, which I'm not really very good at quantity either, but that's the plan going forward for it to actually try to get quality videos out. Now, aside from that, one other idea I have, and I'm trying to sort of keep the gaming ideas to a minimum, that way I don't get overwhelmed and split too much and then don't actually end up getting too many things done. One is I got to hop back into Palworld and check out the latest update they had. Didn't really include any dungeons or anything, so I didn't feel a super compelling need to get into it for video for informing people. But it did tweak the way the base building works and the customization for your base. So that very much appeals to me, but I need a little bit of time where I can just kind of veg out on it to sit and play around with colors and patterns and whatnot. So that's a bit of a unique scenario. Kind of owe it to the No Man's Sky people to actually do some more No Man's Sky stuff, because that video had a ton of interaction as compared to other videos. It had more positive interaction than most have, and it makes me want to really go back to it. I've just had other games that I wanted to prioritize first. And aside from that, I'm going to pop a small clip in really quickly of something else that I have figured out how to work on as just a hint for the people that have stuck in this far. Kudos to you if you recognize what game that's from, but yeah, it's Monster Hunter 3U, which I started out with Try. I don't feel any desire to try to recreate Try on the PC, not to mention apparently there's some hard parts as far as the hub's not exactly available for Try. So instead we'll jump up to 3U, which is the complete version of it anyway. I just got to looking around on YouTube and noticed a surprising lack of content for 3U. I think a lot of people have such mixed opinions on the water combat that there's not been a ton of modern revisits to it. There's videos out there, but there's not a metric ton of them. So I figured I would do a little bit of a let's play, and I would tie that into streaming. I know I've said I'm going to stream a couple different things, but this is actually one that I think I can hold with. Just to be clear, I'm not going to stream it every single time I want to record, but when I do stream, it'll be me getting footage of it. And I've actually broken down a plan in terms of exactly how I want to break it up and do some episodes on it, because I'm going to kind of double it up. The stream will be just me streaming and maybe chatting a little bit to gather some footage. But I'm going to kind of double the videos up as a little bit of a guide on what you need to do to actually progress through it, because it was one of the first Monster Hunters that I played, at least Try was. And then when I played 3U, when we finally got access to it in the US, it was very long ago, so the amount of online resources were limited and debate was quite a bit higher, so you just kind of had to hammer your way through it. And while there's some decent guides out there, there's still things that a modern Monster Hunter player that is thinking about going back and trying some of the older games would probably not be aware of. And I will say this much too, it's a little bit awkward playing it on the PC just because of the way I have to set it up. By the way, before anyone sort of comments or criticizes about using an emulator to play a game, I physically own that game. The whole reason why I bought a Wii U was just for that game. So I actually do have a physical copy of it. I don't have the equipment to hook my Wii U up to the PC and record directly off of it. So instead, I'm just sort of taking a shortcut. It's not really that hard to set it up to play on PC. Not advocating one way or another to whether you should do that or not. But I will say my view on it is a little bit flexible, given that Capcom has basically directly said they have no intentions to remaster or re-release any of the older Monster Hunters. Like, I believe firmly that a collection that includes Monster Hunter 1 through 3 and just uses the final version of each one would probably fly off the shelf. They could even release it with like a terrible PC port, but could you imagine going back and playing Monster Hunter 1 and actually having modern controls as far as actually having separate buttons for the camera instead of having to do things like claw grip? I think it would work well for a remaster. And they don't have to do too much to it. Just go in, fix a few hitboxes, get rid of a few of the glitchy moments, and then actually make the controls viable. But I'm going to work my way through 3U and just put some stuff up on it, partly for nostalgia. I've found myself missing it. I think fighting against Legia Cruz has made me want to go back and play it. Those fights, by the way, in the older games are not nearly as hard as people make them out to be. They're good, but they were only harder because you had to be a little bit more methodical in terms of thinking out what you need to take with you on a quest. But we'll see how all that plays out whenever that pops up. Thought about doing a full world playthrough or a full playthrough on Rise, like picking it up for the PC and doing it on here, but they're recent enough and they're also not that different from Wilds other than having some significantly harder fights. And I'll just go ahead and say this as well. I believe Iceborne probably has the hardest fights in the series at the moment. I don't think either Sunbreak or Wilds have topped it as far as difficulty goes. Once we got to the point of Raging Brachidios, every fight from that point out was just a wild ride and actually required quite a bit of practice and skill to get through. So it has yet to be topped. I'll be curious to see what they do with the eventual expansion for this one, but I do believe it's one of the hardest ones. So we'll go back to 3U. Really fulfill a scratching need for some nostalgia for me and give me something to actually put up some regular Monster Hunter content on the channel, because it's the series that made me want to start doing a channel anyway. Like, I originally started doing book readings, but Monster Hunter was what made me want to actually add games into it. So I'm always going to have at least something Monster Hunter related going on the channel. So that's pretty much the state of the channel. That's where things are going forward. My idea as far as books side of things go is at least one book video a month. I'm just trying to decide what I want to do for the book thing this month. Thinking about going back and looking at everything I read last year and just sort of ranking them all as like best to worst. But we'll see. That probably doesn't interest you if you're watching the Monster Hunter videos, although it might. I never know. Yeah, since you're interested in the same games I am, you might be interested in the same literature I am. All right. Anyway, remember, one of the reasons why I want to show some of this stuff is because I'm not the best player by any measure. I have some experience, but that means if I can beat it, so can you. Have a good night.
It's caught. crazy! Get out!
bomb. no other logical choice.